Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy? Sports and Fitness Rants. I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. Got another great video for you guys today. As usual, man, you guys know the deal on this channel. So about setting the record straight, stopping the lies, stopping the narratives, stopping them from rewriting history, guys. And in this video, I want to talk about some comments that LeBron James continues to make. This man, LeBron James, loves to pump up that 2007 NBA Finals run. He loves to pump that up, man. Like, it's the greatest run ever. His fans, they love to pump that up, right? And I've talked to you guys on this channel, to me, the 1989 run by Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, to me, was way more impressive than LeBron James' 2007 run to the NBA Finals. And we're going to talk about in this video because, to me, what Michael Jordan did in that first three-peat, this man won 3 championships in a row with that roster. No one else is doing that, guys. There's no one else winning 3 championships in a row, a three-peat with that roster. LeBron James can't do that. Couldn't even do it with his super team in Miami. Couldn't do it with the super team in Cleveland. So we're going to talk about that. And to me, how that's much more impressive when Michael Jordan did a three-peat with that first Chicago Bulls team was super impressive, guys, and we're going to go through it in this video. And I want to thank you guys, everyone across the world, everyone across the states that's been supporting my channel. Once again, guys, I am truly, truly humbled by all support, man. It really means a lot. Like I said, the true basketball fans are standing up, man. Real recognize real, man. So thank you to everybody in the membership. Shout out to my man Gary for coming through with the super thanks. Thank you very much, Gary. As usual, man, you continue to humble me coming through. And shout out, another special thanks goes out to Bookmark. Bookmark, man, thank you very much. Bookmark's been a true supporter of my channel, coming through the live streams. Always got good comments to make. So shout out to Bookmark, came through with the super thanks. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, like I said, man, I wanted to talk about how LeBron James is always pumping up that 2007 run as if, that's the most impressive thing that's ever happened in NBA's history. Now, on this channel, I've done videos and I've talked about how, or I've compared LeBron James' 2007 run to Michael Jordan's 1989 run with the Chicago Bulls. And I told you how, to me, that was much more impressive. The teams that the Bulls had to beat to make the Eastern Conference Finals in 1989 was much tougher than the teams that LeBron James' Cleveland Cavaliers beat on that run to 07. Once again, the Bulls were the underdog in both of those series that they won. The underdog, right? The Cleveland Cavaliers were not. So they beat the New York Knicks. They beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, right, in the first couple of rounds, right? Remember the shot? And then they beat the Knicks in the second round. Both of those teams were higher ranked, higher seeded teams in the Chicago Bulls. They were the favorites in those series. And then we all know the Chicago Bulls would lose in 6 games to the Detroit Pistons Eastern Conference Finals. Remember, those are the only 2 games that the Detroit Pistons lost that entire postseason run, guys. They lost 2 games the entire postseason, and both of those games came to Chicago Bulls that year. That's how tough the Chicago Bulls were. That's how great that run was. And I talked about how great Michael Jordan had to be for the Bulls to make that run, right? It wasn't, Michael Jordan's team was playing so great at such a high level. Michael Jordan had to average 40 points a game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then he had to do pretty much the same thing as the New York Knicks in 1989. I believe he led the team in all statistics, if I remember correctly. But he was, out of this world against the New York Knicks, like he usually was. And then, like I said, we all know about the Detroit Pistons series and what they would do and the tactics that they used against the Bulls. But I was listening to LeBron James talk. If you guys don't know, Uninterrupted is back. Or excuse me, not Uninterrupted. Mind the Game. The Mind the Game is back. And I guess it is on Uninterrupted. I guess that's LeBron James, network. Whatever it is. But the Mind the Game is back. And Steve Nash is now J.J. Redick. He just got another white guy, I guess, to replace J.J. Redick. So you got Steve Nash, and I love Steve Nash, man. Much respect to Steve Nash. Even though I don't know why he would agree to do this. I don't know, maybe he needs money. Maybe he wants to be out there. He needs something to do. I get it, after the whole Brooklyn Nets debacle with Kevin Durant, these clowns. Steve Nash I haven't seen Steve Nash around. It's the first time I've seen Steve Nash. So shout out to Steve Nash. But once again, you're here with LeBron James, man. So you're going to sit here and listen to these weird stories from LeBron James, and you're going to have to sit there and have these conversations with LeBron James, man. Like, you're kind of selling yourself a little bit, Steve Nash. But anyway, I saw a clip from the latest, episode of Mind the Game, I guess, season 2, episode 1, I guess. I don't know. And once again, there goes LeBron James talking about that 2007 run. And he's talking about how he had to build up the confidence of his teammates to, make them believe that they were good enough to go that far. And I started laughing when he said that, because this is what we talk about with LeBron James. He doesn't build up the confidence of his teammates. All these years that LeBron James has been in the NBA, he's had many, many opportunities to build the confidence in his teammates. And when those moments came, LeBron James didn't do that. Do you guys remember 2018 finals? Did he build the confidence of J.R. Smith in that moment? No, he didn't build the confidence of J.R. Smith going into that overtime. As a matter of fact, he just dumped on J.R. Smith, right? And he wanted the entire world to know it's J.R. Smith's fault. That's not building up the confidence in your teammates. Once again, you're blaming the role guys. That's not leadership. That's not greatness, man. And this is what LeBron James has done. He's always done this, right? This is why his teammates, this is why his fans are always blaming his teammates. Because LeBron James blames his teammates all the time. He blames the coaches. He blames the referees. He blames the fans. He blames the circumstances. LeBron James always the victim. Always. So he's flopping out there. He's walking off the court early. He's a sore loser. He ain't building the confidence of these guys. So he's talking about, oh yeah, 07, man. I had to give these guys the confidence to believe that we can make it, we can make that run, and we can really do that. Really? You're to build the confidence in your teammates. So you're telling us that in that one instance, in 07, you built up the confidence of your teammates to a degree that they believed in themselves that you guys could go on this run. But you never did it any other instance in your NBA career? Just that one year in 07. I don't remember any other times I could look at LeBron James and say, yeah, this guy's building the confidence in his teammates. This guy's rallying his teammates. He's galvanizing. I use that word galvanize a lot on this channel when I'm relating it to a Michael Jordan or, some of the other greats, the Larry Bird, the Magic Johnsons, the Bill Russells, the Kobe Bryants, the Tim Duncans. They galvanize the players around them. That's what they do. That's how they get these guys on their level. Galvanize. Go look what it means. Go look up what it means to galvanize your team, to galvanize people around you, man. And LeBron James ain't doing those kinds of things. He's had many opportunities to do this and just really doesn't seem to do it. If anything, he turns his back. He quits on his teammates. But he's going to continue to pump up this 07 run. And I laugh whenever he talks about his 07 run, whenever you hear his weird, corny fans talk about that 07 run, because what are we celebrating here? Once again, we're celebrating mediocrity. We're celebrating a point of LeBron James' career where they'll say what? LeBron James carried bums. That's all you hear. LeBron James fans always say the same thing. Oh, LeBron James carried bums to the NBA Finals. Yes, but then he got swept 4-0. And LeBron James was horrendous in the finals. Horrendous in the finals, guys. And that's actually putting it mildly. This man was flat out awful in the finals. Terrible. Terrible, guys. Go look at the numbers he put up in the finals. LeBron James fans love stats, but they don't want to talk about the stats in the 07 finals, right? What do they use as an excuse? Oh, LeBron James only 22 years old. LeBron James only 22 years old. LeBron James was this age. He was young. But all I hear is them celebrate LeBron James for being the youngest player to this, the youngest player to that, the youngest player to do this. But then he's too young in the NBA Finals? But you use his youth as a crutch to prop him up whenever it suits your narrative. You see what I'm saying, guys? They don't want to look at the stats from LeBron James in those finals because that man was terrible in the finals in 07. Terrible. This man averaged, 5 turnovers a game in the NBA Finals? LeBron James had more turnovers himself, guys, than his entire team combined. You heard me correct. Go look at it, guys. Go look at it. He had more turnovers himself than his entire team combined in the finals, guys. But he carried bums to the finals. So we're to believe that LeBron James carried these bums to the finals, but then when the NBA Finals came, he couldn't carry them anymore? Why is that? Maybe it's because you didn't play anybody to get to the NBA Finals. Oh, I guess that must be the answer. Because as soon as you faced a formidable team, the San Antonio Spurs, you guys got swept right out of there, swept. Now, let's also remember those games were a lot closer than people want to remember. LeBron James fans don't want to talk about that. So LeBron James averaged 22 points a game in those finals, guys. 22 points a game. Could you imagine Michael Jordan averaging 22 points a game in the finals, guys? Those are Scottie Pippen numbers. That's what LeBron James did in the finals. He was outscored by Tony Parker. Could you imagine Michael Jordan being outscored by Tony Parker in the NBA Finals? Would never see that, guys. Not even close. Not even on his worst day could Tony Parker shine Michael Jordan's shoes offensively, guys. Not even close, man. but this time to LeBron James in those finals. So he averaged 22 points a game, 5 turnovers a game, and what did he shoot? 39%? 39% in the finals? 39%. I'm supposed to be impressed with that? 22 points per game on 39% shooting? Fans won't talk about that kind of stuff though, right? They don't want to talk about any of these kinds of things. So, once again, this is why we're not impressed with LeBron James running 07, because they never want to give his teammates any of the credit they deserve, right? They'll act as if LeBron James' teammates did nothing out there. But you had guys like Daniel Gibson doing things. You had these other guys stepping up and playing a role, right? Zildjius Ilgauskas, right? Drew Goodens, right? These guys stepped up. When you think about Tim Duncan in the NBA Finals in 2007, guys, that was probably his worst individual finals, guys, individually, especially numbers-wise. Especially if you look at the NBA Finals before that 07 Finals. That was like his worst one. And why was that? Because the Cleveland Cavaliers were I believe they were a top 10 defense that season. That's not because of LeBron James or just because of LeBron James. That's because guys like Anderson Varejao, the Zildjius Ilgauskases, the Larry Hughes, the Drew Goodens, right? These kinds of guys that were playing defense. That's what they were there to do. Defense, rebound, hustle, do all the dirty work for LeBron James to help and assist him. So he doesn't have to do those things. So the Cleveland Cavaliers were a top 10 defense, and a combination effort between Zildjius Ilgauskas, Drew Gooden, and the Anderson Varejaos, the big men of the Cleveland Cavaliers, they did a very good job against Tim Duncan. And they held Tim Duncan to 18 points per game on like 44% shooting or something like that, 47% shooting, which for Tim Duncan is not good. That's why Tony Parker had to step up and average 24 points a game in the finals and win a finals MVP. So, when we talk about LeBron James' teammates, the help that he had, or the quote-unquote help that he had or didn't have, those guys did their job. They played their role. And that's all you can ask a role player to do, is play their roles. And they did that in the finals. LeBron James didn't play his role. He did not play his role in the finals. Now, if we compare this to the finals, or excuse me, to the first three-peat that Michael Jordan had the Chicago Bulls, that first three-peat, guys, could you guys ever see LeBron James three-peating with that team? To me, that's much more impressive. Three-peating with that first Chicago Bulls team, that's amazing. And why is it amazing? Because, like I said, if you look at the players that were on that roster, you had journeymen on that team, guys like Craig Hodges, you guys like Will Perdue, Stacey King, you had guys like Cliff Livingston. These are journeymen, and some of these guys are guys you never heard of, right? Scott Williams. And Michael Jordan was able to maximize those guys. That's why we say Michael Jordan doing more with less. So if you look at the people or the players that got significant playing time, during that first three-peat, then obviously you have the main characters, right? Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, Bill Cartwright, John Paxson, right? That's the starters. And then B.J. Armstrong would replace John Paxson during the 1993 season. He would become the starting point guard. John Paxson would go to the backup spot. But that was your main core group of guys, right? Those 5-6 players. And then you would bring in role players, right? Or accessory guys, right? Around that team, around that 5 or 6 guys, your core. You'd bring in the Cliff Livingstons, the Craig Hodges, right? The Will Perdues, the Stacey Kings, right? You bring these kinds of guys in during that first three-peat. So when you look at some of these players and you look at that team, you wonder, how the hell was Michael Jordan able to lead these guys to a three-peat? Because when we think about the 1991 NBA Finals, or we just think about in general, the teams that the Chicago Bulls had to face in route to the finals, this is what exposes LeBron James runs, all those years when they said, LeBron James went to, 8 straight NBA Finals. Yeah, because he wasn't really playing anyone. When you think about, and also, he stacked up his own team. But in 07, he wasn't on a super team, and he was able to win when? In a weak Eastern Conference. I did the videos on this. From 05 to 2015, guys, the Eastern Conference was at its weakest it's ever been. Weak as hell. That 10-year period, that's when LeBron James was dominating the Eastern Conference. When it was weak. In 07, he faced 2 41-win teams in the first 2 rounds. The 41-win, 41-loss Washington Wizards, right? And I believe Gilbert Arenas wasn't even there in that series. I believe he was hurt or something. Then in the second round, they faced the New Jersey Nets with Jason Kidd, Richard Jefferson, and Vince Carter. And in 07, the Nets won 41 games. They weren't top 10 in anything. Neither were the Washington Wizards. They weren't top in anything. I think the Nets might have been, I don't know, maybe top 15 in something. But they weren't a formidable team. Like I said, Jason Kidd this is a much older Jason Kidd in 07 at that point. This is not prime Vince Carter in 07, right? And once again, the Cleveland Cavaliers were the better team. LeBron James is the best player on the court in that series, right? And they beat the New Jersey Nets. And then they faced the Detroit Pistons without Ben Wallace. This was not the Detroit Pistons from 04 and 05. This is the Detroit Pistons, like I said, who are years older now. There's no Ben Wallace there. They're not the same team as they were a couple years prior, guys. And once again, the Cleveland Cavaliers beat them. The Cleveland Cavaliers were, I believe, like I said, a top 10 defense. Once again, large in part to the guys around LeBron James, not because of LeBron James. So you didn't really beat anyone to go to the NBA Finals. You guys were a 50-win team. You were the second-ranked team in the Eastern Conference, and you made it to the NBA Finals, not beating anybody. But once again, your teammates stepping up and helping you, doing their role, doing their job. When we talk about the first three-peat, you think about some of the teams the Bulls were beating. You think about the 91 NBA Finals and the 91 Eastern Conference Finals. They beat the Detroit Pistons, who are back-to-back champions. Back-to-back champions. LeBron James' team's never beat a back-to-back champion ever in his career. Michael Jordan's Bulls beat back-to-back champions in the 91 Eastern Conference Finals. LeBron James never did that. And then you face the Lakers, and once again, in the NBA Finals that year, who most people were picking to win. The Bulls were the underdog in that finals. They had no experience. Remember, the Bulls, I believe, were the first team in NBA history to win an NBA Finals with not having one player on the roster having any finals experience. If I remember correctly, they were the first team to ever do that. And then I believe the 2015 Warriors might have been the last team to do that, or the second team to do that, win an NBA Finals with no one on that team ever being to the NBA Finals before, having no finals experience. So the Bulls were the underdog in that finals because the Lakers had a bunch of experience. Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Byron Scott, A.C. Green. These guys had playoffs experience, man. They were battle-tested. When I said they were true professionals, they were true competitors. They were a legit team. The Lakers were top 5 defense and a top 5 offense. You never hear that mentioned. That's why they were a top 5 defense, the Lakers in 1991, guys. They were a very, very good team. And a lot of people were picking them to beat the Chicago Bulls. Remember, in Game 3, the Bulls were down by 2. And Scottie Pippen fouled out. There's 9 seconds left. Michael Jordan had to send the game to overtime by hitting a game-tying shot in the last seconds. And then he had to lead the Bulls to an overtime victory without Scottie Pippen there. So Michael Jordan, once again, had to raise his level of play to another level. You think about what Michael Jordan did in those finals. Historic. Averaging over 30 and over 11 assists. No one's been able to duplicate that since Michael Jordan did that. And once again, he did that while winning, guys. While winning a championship against Magic Johnson and the formidable Lakers. You can make an argument the Lakers top to bottom were the better team, guys. We talk about Magic Johnson, James Worthy, A.C. Green, Vlade Divac was killing Bill Cartwright in the finals. They had no answer for Vlade Divac. He was destroying Bill Cartwright. Go watch the games. That's the facts, man. They had a very formidable team. People were saying that James Worthy was better than Scottie Pippen in 1991. You could obviously make that argument in 91, right? Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan were on the same level there. So, and once again, Phil Jackson had no experience. So you can't say, oh, they had Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson didn't have any experience. Who was he? He was a second-year head coach. You think about the 1992 NBA Finals. What have I told you guys about the 92 NBA Finals? Once again, Michael Jordan out Clyde Drexler. Clyde Drexler, after he out Magic Johnson, 91. And in 92, the same thing. Top to bottom, the Portland Trail Blazers guys were a better team. Remember, once again, this was the second time for the Portland Trail Blazers in the finals. This wasn't their first time. They weren't some unexperienced team. No, they were led by a legit superstar, Clyde Drexler, a legit star of the time. And they had a legit team. Top to bottom, the Portland Trail Blazers were better than Chicago Bulls, guys. You look at Clyde Drexler, Jerome Kersey, Kevin Duckworth, Terry Porter, Cliff Robinson, Buck Williams, Danny Ainge. I mean, my goodness, they were stacked. Jerome Kersey was giving the Bulls a business. Horace Grant, Scottie Pippen, they were having a hard time with Jerome Kersey, man. Buck Williams was a very formidable player. He was better than a Horace Grant, guys, Buck Williams. Go look it up. Go learn about the NBA's history. And Kevin Duckworth was better than Bill Cartwright. He just was, especially at that time. He was better player than Bill Cartwright was. But what was the difference, guys? Who was the X factor in that series? It was Michael Jordan, right? So you had Cliff Robinson coming off the bench. You had Danny Ainge coming off the bench, right? And they were better players than someone like a Cliff Livingston or a Craig Hodges, for example. Some of the guys you have coming off the bench, the Will Purdue's, the Stacey Kings. So when you talk about top to bottom, the Portland Trail Blazers were a better team. You were coached by Rick Adelman, who was one of the great coaches of that era. And the difference was Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was the difference, guys. Remember, the series was tied 2 games apiece, right? In Game 5, it was 2 games apiece, guys, and Michael Jordan dropped 40-plus in Game 5 to lead the Bulls to a Game 5, a crucial, pivotal Game 5 victory, right? So once again, this shows you the Portland Trail Blazers were a formidable team, guys. To me, top to bottom, they were a better team on paper. The difference was Michael Jordan, once again, raising his level of play. Remember the shrug? Game 1? Remember, he took it personal. And then we think about the third championship in 1993 against the Phoenix Suns. Once again, you think about top to bottom, the Phoenix Suns were probably a better team, overall team, top to bottom, guys. They just were. In 1993, the Chicago Bulls lost some of their depth. I believe Craig Hodges wasn't on that team. I believe Cliff Livingston wasn't on that team. So you lost some of your depth in that series. B.J. Armstrong became the starter. John Paxson went to the bench. You still had the Will Perdue's and the Stacey Kings on that team. You still had your core, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, right? Bill Cartwright, Paxson, B.J. Armstrong. This is who Michael Jordan is three-peating with, essentially. Those 6-7 guys, man. That's the team. Like I said, you bring in some guys around them, but that's the team. But in 1993, the Phoenix Suns, who won 60 games, were the #1 offense in that season. They were also a top 10 defense that season. Once again, a lot of people don't talk about the Phoenix Suns defense, but they were the #1 offensive team and a top 10 defense, led by the MVP, Charles Barkley. But you had Charles Barkley on that team, Danny Ainge again, Dan Marley on that team. You had guys like Mark West, who was a very solid down-low presence all these years, right? I mean, you just had really good players. You had a young Richard Dumas, and we all know that Richard Dumas would have his issues with the drugs. But you had Kevin Johnson on that team, who to me, I told you, is a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion. From what I watched Kevin Johnson do in the 90s, how this man's not in the Hall of Fame, like I told you, doesn't make any sense. The Hall of Fame has guys in there that, to me, don't belong in there. Kevin Johnson not in there. But that was the team that they had. A very good team top to bottom. Guys like Oliver Miller, Cedric Ceballos, who I believe might have been injured in that series. But you just had a really good team, man. Like I said, and you had a very good coach, Paul Westphal, who was a Hall of Fame player. This is one of the great coaches of that era. And when you think about it, I said top to bottom, the Phoenix Suns were a better team. But what was the difference? Michael Jordan had to average 41 points a game in that series, guys. 41 points a game in that series for the Bulls to win that series. That's the facts, guys. 41, it's an NBA record. That's how historic Michael Jordan had to be to beat the Phoenix Suns. Remember, I've always told you guys, the Phoenix Suns and the Chicago Bulls scored the exact same amount of points, guys, in that series. The same amount of points. And it was the difference was Michael Jordan's 41 points a game, guys. That was the difference. Not Scottie Pippen or the other guys that, the Bulls team was so great. No, those guys played their role. The difference was Michael Jordan, guys. Because Horace Grant wasn't great in that series, and Scottie Pippen wasn't great offensively in that series. He just wasn't great offensively. Go look at the numbers, the shooting percentage of these guys. They were not great, guys. Michael Jordan had to average 41 for a reason. Right? Remember when they talk about John Paxson hitting that shot in Game 6. Remember, Michael Jordan scored all the points for the Chicago Bulls up into that shot. All the points. Not Scottie Pippen or Horace Grant. No one scored except Michael Jordan leading up into that shot. So the Bulls scored 12 points in that quarter. Michael Jordan had 9 of them. So, like I always tell you guys, when people try to say, oh, Michael Jordan was saved by John Paxson, no, we all know that's not true because it was Game 6. But more importantly, John Paxson's shot means nothing if Michael Jordan does not keep the Bulls within striking distance. So if he doesn't score those points and keep them within 3 or within 2 or within 1, then there is no last-second shot for John Paxson to make. Right? If the Bulls are down by 15, what does that shot matter? Nothing. So it's Michael Jordan, in fact, once again, put his team in that position to be there at the end. So when you think about all the teams the Chicago Bulls beat in the finals during that three-peat, then you look at their roster. Where's the difference there, guys? Michael Jordan's the difference, man. Not some crazy roster with all this crazy talent on it. The Bulls were beating teams that were more talented than them. That were just more talented. But the Bulls were a better team. But the other teams were more talented top to bottom. The Bulls had Michael Jordan, guys. That was the difference, man. So it didn't matter if they faced the 60-win Knicks, right, in the Eastern Conference Finals in 1993. They had 60 wins. That was the #1 defense, right? It didn't matter because they had Michael Jordan there, right? It didn't matter these things when they faced the Detroit Pistons in the 91 Eastern Conference Finals, back-to-back champs, right? They tried to play the mind games and intimidate the Bulls. It didn't work because you had Michael Jordan there, stepping up, being the big brother, right? Getting in the face of guys like Mark Aguirre and Bill Laimbeer and going nose-to-nose with Dennis Rodman. That's what he did. The same way he went nose-to-nose with Xavier McDaniel, the New York Knicks in 92 Eastern Conference Finals in that Game 7. going nose to nose, standing up for his teammates. That's how you build confidence in your teammates. And that's why Michael Jordan's able to do more with less than anyone else in NBA's history, guys. That first three-peat, there's no one else in NBA's history that's three-peating with that team, guys. No one. Not Kobe, not Tim Duncan, not Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. None of these guys are three-peating with that team. It's just not happening. Because of the way that Michael Jordan was able to galvanize his teammates and do more with less. No one's been able to duplicate that. No one. I mean, look at the last three-peat. You had Shaq and Kobe. Shaq and Kobe. Not just Shaq and Kobe. So you had two of these great players to do a three-peat. Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen are not Kobe and Shaq as far as how great they are individually. To me, Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan are the greatest duo of all time because of the dynamic between them. But when you talk about individuals, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, individually, Scottie Pippen's on that level with those guys. He's just not. It took two of those guys to do a three-peat. Michael Jordan did 2 three-peats with Scottie Pippen. But that first three-peat, when you look at that team from top to bottom, you look at some of the players. Like I said, some of these guys were journeymen, had been on multiple teams before they got to Chicago Bulls and found a home. And when you look at some of the guys on that team, you never heard of these guys. You don't know who Cliff Livingston is. Do you remember Will Perdue? Do you remember Stacey King? Do you remember Scott Williams? We remember them. The true basketball fans know these guys because we watched the game back in the day and we respected role players. Right? Role players were valuable. They had a place in the game. Now people act like being a role player is a negative thing, right? And now we blame role players when before the role players never got the blame. So to me, Michael Jordan's first three-peat with Chicago Bulls is way more impressive than LeBron James' 07 run. But he keeps talking about that 07 run and pumping up that 07 run and talk about the confidence he built in his teammates. Dude, when do you build confidence? You're never building confidence. You're not. And your fans are the despicable fan base, how they blame your teammates all the time for your blunders and your failures. That you're carrying bums until you get to the finals, and then you do nothing in the finals. Your teammates are carrying you. They were carrying you in the finals. You weren't doing anything there. You guys know, these are the facts, man. LeBron James, his fans love to pump that 07 run. Not impressive at all. LeBron James ain't three-peating with that first Chicago Bulls team. You guys know the deal, man. I'll catch you guys on the next one.